What's up, everyone? This is the Anime Goat Podcast, and I am CW, and we're back with another episode. Today, we are going to review or slightly review season 3 of Demon Slayer. Now, if you haven't seen the whole season or if you haven't seen any of the season, I suggest you click away now and go watch it and come back because this will have some spoilers. So, warning that there will be some spoilers in this review. It's not really a review. I'm gonna talk about 3 things I liked and 3 things I didn't like. I'm not gonna say the good and the bad because I didn't think there was anything inherently bad about season 3, but it did have a few things that I noticed that weren't, just didn't do it for me. But like I said, if you have not seen season 3 of Demon Slayer, number one, you should. And where have you been? And number two, click away now because I will be spoiling some of it. This won't be heavy spoilers. This will just be some of the plot points that were resolved in the finale and just some things that happened throughout the season that may, if you haven't seen it, may kind of spoil you. So, like I said, leave now and come back if you haven't seen the season, and let's get started. So whenever someone says I have good and bad news, I always start off with the bad. And this isn't necessarily bad. Like I said, this is things I disliked and kind of noticed in this season that kind of was like, okay, so I see we're doing this. Anyway, so the 3 things I disliked about season 3 of Demon Slayer. Number one, and this is if you haven't watched it yet, I did a video on Demon Slayer's biggest flaw or one flaw, and this reared its head here in season 3, and that is the repetitive story structure. And what I mean is every season kind of has the same structure where you meet the Hashira, you meet some new character, and we get to the action with the demon. They fight, they get injured or something, and then we have a backstory. And then we see, where they came from, the hardships they've had, things of that nature. And then we go back to them fighting the demon. Then they finally kill the demon, and we get the backstory of the demon, and that makes us feel sorry for, them killing the demon, even though the demons killed like 500 people and destroyed a whole village. But it makes us feel sorry for the demon. But, there's a possible redemption or just some kind of, I guess, satisfaction at the end of these demons. And that's kind of been the MO for the entire 3 seasons. And it didn't change here. And I think that that's not a bad thing. Like I said in my video for the one flaw or biggest flaw, many anime, movies, and other things, and series, what have you, they follow a pattern. They build their story off of a story structure that works for them. And this isn't the first anime to do it, and it won't be the last one. So even though I dislike it because it takes away some of the mystery when it comes to the season, because you kind of already know how it's going to go. You don't know the outcomes all the time, and you don't know how they'll finish off the demon or things of that nature, or who will maybe not make it out alive during those exchanges. But you kind of know how it's going to flow. They're going to have some big action, and then they're going to kind of slow it down with some backstory and rinse and repeat. So that was my first kind of dislike for the season. Number two, the Hashiras and the characters minus Tanjiro. I think they did an okay job of introducing those characters and, making you kind of care for them. But at the same time, we got a little bit of them, a little piece of them, and then they kind of just went away from that character. Like, probably the character with the most in this season was, and sorry for the little OneDrive notification sound, but the one character that had quite a bit, I thought, was Uichiro Tokido. He probably had the most character development and character build throughout this season, and I thought that was going to lead to something that they kind of showed in this season, but I guess we're not ready for that yet. I was told something that was going to happen, and it didn't quite happen, so that's a good thing. That's a plus. But I thought he was the only one that really got enough character build, but I thought it was building to something a little more dramatic at the end. But characters like Mitsuri, who was cool and was fine, and I'm sure she'll have some bigger moments later on in the series, but it just seemed like she would show up, fight, then that'd be it. And we got her backstory, but right after we got her backstory, we pretty much left her on the battlefield, and that was pretty much it. There was not a whole lot of development for her other than learning her backstory and her being a solid Hashira, but maybe that's the key. We will probably learn more from her going forward. So maybe they just gave us a little teaser and then we'll get the gist of it and we'll get a little more of her character. Now, my third kind of dislike was actually the demons' backstories. After Gyutaro and Daki, which I thought was exceptional as a backstory, and just it made you really feel for those two. And the fact that even though they caused so much trouble, you kind of felt bad and wanted them to get some kind of redemption story after all that you learned. These two just didn't have much in the way of backstory. I don't even know if Gyoko, who is I believe upper five, the vase demon, I don't even know if they did a backstory for him, because I know I watched the whole season. I might have been distracted at some point, but I know I watched almost every episode multiple times, so I do not remember seeing any kind of backstory from him. And so that there's that, and then the four, who he had way too many names for me to know his name. So excuse me for being a little dumb when it comes to what his actual name was. His backstory was okay, but I think they could have explained it a little better. They kind of rushed through it to the point where I think they wanted you to kind of feel bad for him, but they didn't give us enough to feel bad for him. Like I said, they kind of breezed through it in an episode, which episode 3, the finale, the last episode was phenomenal. That was movie like. It was basically a movie and finale in one. So it was fantastic, but I just thought that little tidbit with the demon's backstory was just kind of missing, or kind of just glossed over, excuse me. And I just didn't feel like they did enough to make me care about those two. And while they were menacing, we didn't spend enough time with the angry emotion, the one that was hitting the different drums and had the I guess the stone dragons or wood dragons that were giving Tanjiro and then Missouri a hard time. We never got to spend enough time with that version of the demon, I thought, because he was really cool and a really awesome design, but we just didn't get enough of him. So I think that they dropped the ball a little bit with the demons this season, whereas they didn't give them quite as much, or they weren't as fleshed out as, say, Gyutaro and Daki. But maybe they were just fodder, and we'll get to the actual, real deal these next seasons. So hopefully so. So those were just 3 things that I just really didn't like for season 3. And now let's get into the things I liked. So the first thing I liked about season 3 was Nezuko, and her having more of a role in this season. She's had a role almost throughout the entire series, but this season it seemed like she was just a true member of Tanjiro's lineup. It was her and Tanjiro mostly, and then you had Genya, who I must say, in my dislike, I hated that Genya kind of got the short end. He was there and such a cool character. We got his backstory, but we never quite got enough of him either. So maybe they're saving that for further down the line. But anyway, back to my likes. Nezuko being more part of the action and more, even though she can't talk, well, we'll talk about that later. But even though she doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue, she adds a lot to the story and adds a lot to the episodes and the adventure. So I like that she was way more involved in this season. And I think that was a big plus, seeing as though we didn't get his usual allies, Inosuke and Zenitsu. So having Nezuko be a little bit more of a sidekick or an ally for Tanjiro was really cool. I think that helped to, in a season where you didn't get the usual humor stuff. She helped, keep everything moving forward. And this season was a little darker. I felt that we didn't have as much of the humor that Inosuke and other characters bring. But I thought they did well of incorporating her into the story and her being pretty much a big part of the story now. And also now she's basically the focal point moving forward. And if you haven't seen it, like I said, don't be spoiled. But now things got really real at the end, and Nezuko and Tanjiro have a target on their back. So I think that big setup was really good and done very well in this season. So my second thing that I really liked was Tanjiro's growth. I mean, he's grown every season, and that's what a protagonist does. They just continue to grow throughout the series, and that's what he's done. They didn't make him OP, and that's what I like. Even though he has some excellent sword art, and they kind of helped him out a little bit with Nezuko able to use her demon fire and him that 1-2 punch, but it made sense. But like I said, he was not too OP where he was just taking down all the demons with ease. He still had a big struggle. And he still, I mean, even though he was the one that got the job done against the upper four, the emotion demon or whatever. He did it with an ensemble. Pretty much everybody chipped in. So it wasn't just, Tanjiro going Super Saiyan, as they say, and just taking down the demon with ease. He had a little bit from everybody. Everybody chipped in a little bit, whether it be Genya, Nezuko, Muichiro, or Mitsuri. They all, and even the little swordsmith guys, they were, very helpful. So Tanjiro's growth, I thought, was really done well throughout this season. And I can't wait to see where it goes from here. And the last thing, which is just commonplace with Ufotable, excuse me, the animation. The animation was just spot on. The music was exceptional this season. When it needed to be eerie, it was eerie. I thought when the angry demon came, the music was just perfect for that setting and just very eerie and just, you didn't know what was going to happen to Tanjiro. And then you had the finale where just all the music went well, and the thought of who dying, the big surprise that we thought was going to happen, which we got an even bigger surprise. The music for that, and it just was so somber when you thought that, yeah, this was it for that character, and then boom, you get the big surprise. I haven't read the manga, so I was completely surprised. But I was about to say I'm not watching Demon Slayer again if this character dies this episode, then I'm not watching again. But luckily that character came through and they explained it perfectly how it happened. And like I said, the music, animation, everything was spot on. So what you guys think? Did you enjoy Demon Slayer Season 3? Was there anything you disliked? What were your likes? Let me know in the comment section, and hopefully you guys will come back to check out the Anime Goat podcast. I'll try to get some more stuff out there. We, of course, have mangas for Dragon Ball Super coming out, and of course, Boruto is coming back very soon with the time skip, so we'll definitely be talking some about that. So once again, thank you guys for liking, subscribing. Please come back and check me out, and we'll be back soon.